Okay, this is something that I don't really know if anybody else does because they really only ever show the outside of their shaved firewalls. But we got to hang an AC box off of the firewall and the cowl and everything, and I really don't want it to flex, pop all the bodywork off. Well, all the bodywork, the minimal bodywork that's going to be there, and start cracking paint. So this is a brace that was fabricated yesterday. It's just going to get spot welded in here to the firewall itself in a couple spots, and then the mount for the vintage air bolts over top of this, and then yeah, hopefully it doesn't crack the firewall. So small things. Yeah, so we're just doing some final I guess guesstimating on where this thing is supposed to go, this pass through for the steering column, so then I can make the firewall up to this line, this half today yet. So I want to dial this in so my knuckles not hitting the what's it called, frame rail. Down and over a lot. I'm gonna try this. Because if I remember correctly, we got the stupid exhaust coming down here somewhere from the turbo downpipe. So we'll take this thing and move it down in this region-ish area. That's why we do it on the practice firewall first. I think we located where we're putting our knob. Until later when I do the firewall a third time. No, we have enough clearance here against the frame rail, I think, with the knuckle. Don't really have the right size one. And then inside we got enough clearance and everything, so this is likely where this spherical bearing is going to live now. We have the inner fenders here. It'll give us enough room. I think we'll have enough room for a 3-inch pipe coming down here. Not I think, there's going to be enough room. So that's kind of our only two clearance problems, if you want to even call them a problem. So yay! And here I guess we got the motor mounts. It's going to be kind of fun, but that's tomorrow's problem, or in a couple weeks. Just like it was explained on the last video, except this time it wasn't filmed. Working on small brackets in the same corner. This passenger side floor pan is basically ready to be welded in now. So I've got the extension piece put on to mount up to whatever you want to call this, the kick panel. And then inside here we spotted on a flange to seal it up from the outside here, and then to give it some structure on the corner here. So this is just going to get spot welded to this inner rocker. And then obviously along this edge where the firewall gets spot welded down. So we're getting close to welding this panel in for good. And then there's a bunch of other smaller stuff to pack in the corner to just close it in so dirt doesn't get jammed in there, and to add a little bit of structure to this corner, kind of like the factory body had. So we're going to be working on this firewall for a few weeks. So it might not look like we're getting anything done, but there's some big progress being made. Bead pattern layout on the firewall here, just kind of how I chose it. So the first things first is, like, we want inner fenders in this car to just keep the engine bay sort of clean and look more factory, rather than just doing like a cover that covers everything, including like the hood hinges that are right here. I don't want the wheels to load that all with salt and sand, and because like we live in Winnipeg and they don't clean the streets till August 15th, and then like 2 weeks later it's disgusting again. So yeah, so the first things first was to kind of lay out based on the hood hinges where the inner fender is gonna, or the profile of the inner fender, and then we kind of just offset these two off of that a little bit, so it's 1.25 inch offset off here both ways, and that's so that when we weld our flange in here, that I haven't decided whether the spot welds in or whether it bolts in the inner fender to this. So this will be going down there. And then on this side here, we had to make room for the 2 Vinachair bulkhead connectors to come through for the air conditioning. There's only 2 here because the heater is actually going to come out right behind the engine, right under the intake manifold, because that's where they are on the Dodge or on the 6.4. They actually come out the side, and I didn't want to see anything going across the firewall here, so we're going to go bulkheads here, wiring connector here, everything nice and hidden behind the intake. And then we got the step where I got an overlap for the upper cowl portion on the car. So it's going to overlap here, weld, smooth, and then you won't see this joint. And then here we just did an offset off of there, kind of arbitrary. This is a 2-inch offset just to give me a little bit over an inch here. And then yeah, the profile of the tunnel, 1-inch offset off of that, and then just 1-inch radiuses in the corners to kind of dial it in. Just kind of landing on something that we might be able to, like this side will obviously look good. The driver's side's got more stuff going on it, so I wanted to have some shapes that looked similar on both sides. So if you come over here, our layout right now looks similar to the passenger side. We got the same triangle here, and then this is basically the same second shape, except it's going around the booster, and we're going to have the steering shaft coming through it. And then like the inner fender is going to have a little bit of a different shape to clear the booster, because we're using Hydro Boost assembly and a bare remaster master cylinder. So that's going to be hanging out here somewhere. Don't know yet, but the inner fender is going to have to clear that. This side here looks very close to that, except if you remember from one of our previous videos, this whole thing's actually got to get stepped in to reach the clutch master mounting location on the pedal assembly. And I'll follow this shape here that's on the kick panel. So I don't know what the bead layout's going to be out here, if there even is any, depending on how many facets and like edges and corners and stuff there is here. There probably won't even be any rolls. But yeah, this side is pretty well just as, trying to keep it just as sanitary as the other side. Nothing more than it has to be coming through the firewall. So yeah, that's kind of it. Like the hood hinge mounts are going to be different, like made different than what the factory had. They're going to come down here. You'll see that in a future segment. But yeah, this is just going to get butt welded up here to the inner cowl, and then we're getting a new outer cowl from AMD. That's going to have to be heavily modified to fit here, but yeah, once the butt welds into here, you'll never know that there's even a joint here. That's the goal. Back from the nap sesh. Okay, so we got the firewall patch, or the firewall section, I think the last section, but we'll see here if I make any mistakes. All laid out, ready for rolling. So, like I mentioned before, like there's a few things going on that are different on this side, but we're trying to keep them looking sort of the same. So we got this, this section here, we got this marked out because we're gonna cut and notch for the spherical bearing after the rolling, otherwise it starts distorting and being weird in this corner here. Got the area here for the brake booster bracket, I guess, and then this is where our inner fender is going to line up. So this side here is getting no bead on it because this obviously section basically right here is getting cut out. This is where the clutch master cylinder is, like we discussed before. And then this top edge here, like it says, just step down here for a lap joint, and then step down here for a lap joint too. So I guess there's nothing to it here but to head over to the roller and I'll explain which dies we're using. Alright, so we're setting up the 1/8 step dies here for the first two for the lap joint flanges. And yeah, so just one, obviously you pick which die you want to step it whichever way you want. Pretty self-explanatory when you just look at the dies. So flip the table up here. and then we'll roll the panel. Okay, so roll the top and bottom first, just because the way the dies are set up for this, it'll warp the panel a bit. Especially up in this corner, you can kind of see if you lay this down, it doesn't like the open corners as much, but this heavy step looks a lot better than the small step on this kind of stuff, so that's why we're doing it. It's also way easier to see the wheels, so doing the radius is easier in my opinion, but we'll find out if I ruin this panel. So here we go. Okay, so this is a bit of an unconventional die setup. I seen this one online, a guy used it and I tried it out. It allows to make for a wider step, but also to remove, like when you have the regular step dies, if you bear down too hard, you'll get track marks from the edge of this die. And with this setup, you only have 1 point contacting the panel here and 1 point contacting on top. So you won't get track marks as easy. And with this pinpoint on the tipping wheel, you also have way easier sight line to your line that you're going. Whereas with these ones, when making corners and stuff, it's a little more difficult. I just don't have the practice down, so that's why it's more difficult for me. I mean, a guy with more hours obviously is going to be better. So just to go over it, I guess this is a tipping wheel on top, and then this is the radius die. These are both dies that came with the Mittler Brothers bead roller. And then I'm just running a washer back here for a spacer to tighten up the step. So we'll just go ahead and roll this panel. Hopefully it doesn't ruin itself. Alright, so this is kind of where we're going to finish this one off. This firewall is obviously not done. There's a lot more to go, but this is a pretty hefty section going on this side. So we got it rolled. There's a bit of warpage going on in the middle here, but that's to be expected because there's no backing here. So when we do start working on the inner cowl, that's when that'll add some structure there. I got to build a brace for the back here for the steering spherical bearing, the clutch area here, and then I got to build a brace that goes around the brake booster and master cylinder mount because we don't want paint cracking on this firewall. We want everything to be strong like factory. Every factory car's got a brace behind here. There is no point to build a new firewall and not put the brace back. So that's going to be on a future video. As you can see here, it's not the greatest right now. It's going to need some tuning up, but that's what we're here for. Not everything is mint. But yeah, I want to say thanks again for watching. Click a like and subscribe to the video.